Hi, I'm Paul Espie, Technical Director with GHD, which is a global consulting firm. We've been using PLEXOS for a couple of years now, principally in the energy transmission and distribution space. So GHD, our focus with PLEXOS is probably slightly different from other consultants because our background is in the transmission distribution network space. So we've obviously got traditional tools that we use in order to help solve client problems. So our application of PLEXOS in this case really brings a new avenue in order to explore solutions for clients in the sort of energy transition space. So whether that be renewable generation connections, optimizing battery storage, and transmission and distribution networking capacity investment. So it sits and complements the existing tools that we already have in order to allow us more insights to help solve our client problems. Predominantly capacity investments, network investment, locational decisions, project viability in terms of is it worthwhile for developers to look at particular schemes, whether that is demand, generation, renewables, batteries, those types of projects. I would say network investment because the capital investment required for transmission and distribution networks over the next few years is going to be fairly significant across the globe. And therefore, it's important that given that capital investment and also the speed of deployment to make sure that the right decisions are made. And we're using PLEXOS to help break down those barriers and understand where the decisions need to be made, what are the optimal decisions, and how best for them to spend the capital investment they've got amongst the constraints in terms of asset delivery, supply chain, outages, and just all the other challenges that go along with rapid change in electricity systems. So I think two things there. I think the need has changed. And 20, 30 years ago, there wasn't the variability in terms of power flows, in terms of generation dispatch. So that's clearly changed over the last 20 years with more renewables, with batteries. The tools have also changed too because there's a lot more scenarios, a lot more projections of renewables and things that need to be considered. And the traditional tools are great in certain areas, but they just don't have the flexibility to allow all the complicated scenario analysis as well as all the detailed information that has to go into the model. We had our own tools in-house and used other tools to do the same or similar functions, but they just got to a point there where eventually they just weren't suitable, either too long to run or they were still limited in their functionality, and therefore we needed to move to something that was just better at helping us solve our client problems. Like I say, I think it's just giving us those insights so we can have better informed conversations with clients around their network investment, operation, and just basically helping them solve their problems. What I would say is it's the insights to the decisions. I mean, at the end of the day, there's all sorts of analysis can be done. What we're using PLEXOS and where GHD is particularly focusing is not just doing the analysis, but actually understanding why. Why is this the outcome? What does this mean for the client? And what does it mean for them in terms of their decision making? Because at the end of the day, the journey doesn't stop after we've done our study. Someone takes that forward, either the business, there's investment, there's financial decisions to be made. So the better we can articulate the solutions and why it matters to them and give them the insights, then the better decisions they can make. So that's what PLEXOS is helping us do. Time series analysis, I think doing hourly simulations or 5-minute, whatever you want to do, and combining that with long-term projections, so 20, 30 years analysis. It's possible to do bits and pieces of that in other tools, but PLEXOS has the functionality to keep it all in one place. So therefore you can do the network capacity congestion analysis along with the scenario analysis and the network expansion build out all within the same package. So you don't have to use all the functions at one time, obviously, but the fact that you've got one common data set where you can use it for those different decisions just makes things much easier because you've got a consistent database, consistent data set, and everyone understands what's gone into it. And therefore, you can be confident when you use it for different types of problem applications that you're not having to change data from one project or one program to another to make it fit the type of analysis you're doing. It's a one-stop shop to do a lot of different important things for our clients. To be honest, it's all of those to some extent. As I said, the problems we're dealing with are more complicated, and therefore the traditional tools, even if they had worked, would just take too long. So PLEXOS has helped with that efficiency in terms of making life a bit easier to run through the scenario projections, the different input sensitivities that need to be done. So I'd say time, helping get the better insights by allowing more scenarios to be done efficiently, and also importantly on that stakeholder space of bringing stakeholders on the journey, understanding that there's an industry recognized tool that's used by all sorts of different parties for different problems, and therefore they can recognize and see the benefit to their business as well. Some of the work we've been doing for our network clients probably falls into that category, because we were using previous tools to support their capital investment decisions. And by having PLEXOS there now allows us to do all we were doing before, but more. So therefore we can run more scenarios, we can do more sensitivities, we can provide better insights, which means for them, they've got a better understanding of the investment decisions and the risks that go along with those. And ultimately they can decide on the basis of the information that we give them back, where do they want to position their business, and ultimately how much risk do they want to take in their business. Because certain projects, for example, might only be needed under extreme scenarios. If we can show where things are needed, but also the projects that are common, that are always needed in some shape or form, that helps de-risk their investment pathway. Again, I think there's different ways you could look at that, but certainly in terms of the opportunities that we get with clients, obviously it's a significant increase in terms of where we were previously, but obviously then the value then goes to the decisions that have been made, and then those capital investment decisions could be hundreds of millions in terms of the relative value of the end project at the end of the day. So obviously the front end consultancy part that we work in is only one part of that, but ultimately that's the value of PLEXOS. It gives the ability to give those insights, those high value capital decisions.